Hey guys, this is CubeHeads 101, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to solve the 4x6x8 cuboid shape-shifting puzzle. Now, I haven't seen any other tutorials for this on the internet, so I developed my own method to solve this. I bet you other tutorials are going to come out soon. This is just my method. It might not be the most efficient, but I guarantee it will allow you to solve the puzzle every single time. So the first thing you need to know how to do is properly scramble the puzzle. So this puzzle is an all-even puzzle that can shapeshift in every direction, which means that if you start shapeshifting it, it's going to start bandaging the inner parts. And if I were to immediately start shapeshifting like that, you'll see that this is 2 units above this one. But if I were to do this, right here, you see that this one is 1 unit above this one. So first you shapeshift with 1 unit above, and then you shapeshift with 2 units above, because otherwise you're going to bandage things with what they belong. And you don't want to do that, because then you're just not giving the full puzzle experience. So the first thing you want to do is what you do with every shape-shifting puzzle: scramble it in its cuboid form, and that means only use double turns to scramble the puzzle. So I'm going to do that. Alright, so now I have scrambled the puzzle in its cuboid form. And now there is more than one way to properly scramble this, but since this is a 4x6x8, I'm going to scramble the 6 and the 8 layer together. So that is the red oranges and the green blues. So I'm going to start shape-shifting it like that, and you see that when I do that, it's going to start bandaging things like this. Now, before you do that, you want to see that what you're bandaging, like if I were to do this, you would see that this would bandage with the piece it belongs with. So what you want to do is, before you do that step, make sure that you bandage it with something that it doesn't belong with, just to ensure that you're going to make it as hard as possible. So this, and this, and this, and this. And you can have one that's correct, because if you have one that's correct, like if they're all off, then maybe when it's unbandaged you could just do that and they'll all be right. So what I like to do is have maybe one correct, but most of them off. And then at this point, I start scrambling the 6 and the 8 layers together like that. At this point, you're going to want to scramble the rest of the puzzle, completely shape-shifting it, but you're not up to your 4x4 stages yet, because you can still lock that layer from that one. So you're not just going to start scrambling it like a 4x4 and treat these, because these aren't bandaged yet. So first you're going to bandage them like that, and like that, these layers, because at some point in the solve you're going to have to fix these layers. So now we're going to... This is what we're gonna have to fix, but you can tell it's not obvious. Oh yeah, this random shape has to go there. So go ahead and bandage those, and then at this point you can start to scramble it like a 4x4. Alright, at this point, I'm gonna call this a fair scramble. And one thing that I should have pointed out earlier is my color scheme. But I'll just tell you now that my 2 sides with the most surface area are the white and the yellow sides. So because of that, I'm gonna make the white and the yellow centers the little 4x4 centers. So over there, I have a little piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that white side. I just have to look for all the white pieces, and this part is a bit of a challenge, but just because it's harder to find pieces, because there are things sticking out everywhere. So even if you're good at making centers on a 4x4, this is going to take a little bit more time, but it's pretty much just the same process. So you see I've made that white center. Now I'm going to make the yellow center at the same time. So I have that line. this piece, I'm going to connect it to that one. Put it up there. Alright, so I have made this yellow center and I've made this white center. The next thing you're going to want to do is make the rest of the centers, but the rest of the centers don't actually have to be made properly. They just have to be made as horizontal lines. So here I have these greens and these reds. So I'm going to make that a horizontal line. Here I also see I have it ready, so that's a horizontal line I'm going to preserve. And this is to save time because it's easier to do this and because it's going to be more convenient to be able to turn these horizontal lines all the way around instead of taking an edge out and flipping it. So here I have this green piece that I'm going to pair with this green piece, and now I have another horizontal line, and those reds I'm going to make together. So now I have this blue and this blue. That's good. And now I just have the reds and the oranges that I'm going to bring together right over there. So that should have been pretty simple. The goal of that step was to make the yellow 4x4, the white 4x4, or just the sides with the most surface area, and then the rest of the sides you just want to have these horizontal lines. Now, if you're familiar with, I'm sorry about that. If you're familiar with a 4x4, the next step, usually after making the centers, typically one will edge pair. So what we're going to do is we're going to edge pair the 4x4 ones. So just everything that is in these inner layers, but only the whites and the yellow ones. So I can see that I have, so this piece is orange white, so I'm going to look for the other orange white piece. It can be a trick to find sometimes. I found it right there. So what I do is I'm going to put it in, and I can tell that I put it in on the same layer. So this is why we made those horizontal lines, because instead of having to take it out and putting it in the other side, I can just throw it all the way around 180 degrees, and then I can pair them up. And then typically you're going to store the first 8 edges that you make on a 4x4 on the tops and on the bottoms. So we're going to do that, but we're always going to store them oriented correctly. So though it doesn't matter if you put it on the white side or the yellow side, but what matters is that the white or the yellow is same. So you're not going to store it up like that, because that's the orange on the white side. So you're going to put the white on the yellow side instead of the orange on the yellow side. So I'm just going to do this pretty quickly. Just it doesn't take up a lot of time in the video, but basically what you do is you just make all of these cross pieces, or you just pair them up. So I'll show you one more. So this is a white green. So I'm going to look around for the white green piece. I found it right there. So I'm going to bring it in. Then you should know how to do this. This is just traditional 4x4 stuff. And I see I put them on the same layer. So I'm just going to turn it all the way around. Bring that one all the way over. And then I'm going to store it. And I'm going to store it with this, the white side on that side. And then I'm going to bring it down. So I'm just going to do the rest of that. And I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so this is my last pair that I've put up. So as you can tell, I've put that up. And now I have a cross on both the yellow and the white side. And we're not going to pair these yet. But all of these shouldn't contain the colors white or yellow. So at this point you have a cross on both sides. So we're going to consider these edges oriented. and what you want to do is orient the rest of the corners. I'm defining an oriented corner to be having the white or the yellow side facing the white or the yellow side. So the white could face the yellow, yellow could face the white could face white, yellow could face yellow, whatever. But that's what you got to do. Now, either you're just going to get an OLL on both sides, which hopefully you know. If not, learn how to orient the corners. Or you're going to get something that's not possible on both sides, in which case you can either do a CLS and then an OLL, or you could just, I don't know, find a way to orient the corners. It's really not that difficult. At this point, you're going to have the cross on both the yellow and the white side, and you're going to have a bunch of pieces sticking out that keep the yellow side and white side from being flat. This is called floppy parity. You have floppy parity on the edges, and you have floppy parity on the center pieces. Now, a lot of people like to use Red Bull. I typically think that that's not a good way to do it. Now, I also realize that it's going to be much harder to deal with the center floppy parity before you deal with the edge floppy parity. So what we're going to do is first we're going to, in a not very organized way, but just in a very efficient way, we're going to reduce the floppy parity to minimize it. So I can tell that I have two things of floppy parity here. I have another floppy parity there, but I can't slice that down because this is in the way. So I'm going to move that out of the way. And now I can see that I have 4 floppy parities on the same layer. And so I could just turn that over right there. And now I'm only down to these floppy parities. And now I can get rid of that. And if you have only 2 floppy parities left, what you can do is you can either do Red Bull, but that's going to be inconvenient because you're not going to be able to do that all the time. So what I like to do is I like to, if these were correct and these were wrong, so I would put them both on this layer, and if these were correct, so don't look at that, what I would do is I would do a cuboid friendly T-Perm or any cuboid friendly PLL that has headlights, and that would orient these, or that would permute these two, and that would remove the floppy parity. So now I just have floppy parity with the center pieces. So I know a lot of cuboid friendly PLLs, but you're only going to really need to know the cuboid friendly T-Perm, and not even a cuboid friendly PLL, but a way to switch those two, because if it switches these two also, then, so I'm going to call that the adjacent edge swap, or the adjacent center swap. And really you won't need that many algos. I'll have all the algos in the description that you will need. So what I like to do is I bring all the parity on the same layer. So here's a parity, and it's on the same layer as this parity, and then I see that I have a parity there, and I can bring that parity up. So I'm going to hide that one down, bring that there. So we have parity here, parity here, parity here. So all we're missing is a parity over there, which I'll just bring one there real quick. So we have this one. Just turn it all the way around. And then I'll move it up right here. So you can see we have parity all over this layer. So I'm going to use a cuboid friendly Z-Perm to do this. I know that most people don't know cuboid friendly Z-Perm, so I'll include that in the description. Alright, at this point I only have two more parts to the floppy parity, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine them here, and I'm going to combine them on this layer. So in this layer, and that's why we didn't make these centers, because you can use these horizontal slices, and you got that. So now what I got to do is I got to combine this parity with that parity. So I'm going to move that over, and then I'm going to bring this one up, but I don't want to ruin these edges that I've made, so I'm gonna actually just commutate that piece, or you can just think of it as moving it up and then hiding it to the side, bringing it back down, and then bringing that back, bring that one back down, and at that point we have fixed all our edges, and we can even bring that back up if we want. So I'll do that. A little bit of a lockup. And there we go. So I'm gonna use the algorithm to switch those, that and that, and it is going to switch those two, but we don't care for this part of the solve. And ultimately I'll have all the algorithms you're gonna need in the descriptions. This one is gonna be I'm considering this like a center part, so I'm gonna call this the adjacent center swap algorithm. Alright, so I actually ran out of power, so I just brought the cube back into the same situation where I have to switch this and this to get rid of the parity. Like I said, I'm going to be calling this the adjacent center swap, and this is not a cuboid, well, it's cuboid friendly, but it's not something that you could do on a 3x3 because it's going to switch those two because of just the parity of how a cube works. So the algorithm for this is going to be in the description. At this point, we've dealt with the parity, all of the floppy parity, which is for a lot of people the hardest part of the puzzle, and we have the puzzle is now flat. At this point, what we're going to do is start pairing more of the edges. We're going to pair this layer that we've unlocked, and we're also going to do that with the center pieces. So the way we're going to do that is I can tell I have two greens here, so I'm going to align two greens here. So I have a green there, and then I have another green I'm going to bring over like that. So we have two greens here and two greens here, as you can see. So if I were to do a slice, they would be matched up. But we're not just matching up the center pieces. Well, if you want to be less efficient, you could, but we're also going to match up the edge pieces. So this is orange yellow right here. So we're going to put an orange yellow there. Already is an orange yellow here. And now we have here a yellow blue. So we're going to look around for the yellow blue, which is right there. And we're going to bring it over. Okay? So at this point, when I slice it, I have now on the back, I've paired these two with each other, those two, and those two. And it doesn't matter where you put these because you can use a parity fix in order to put them where they belong. And I'll show you right now. So I'm going to put these greens with those greens, and then I have, where did I just pair it? Yellow, orange. So over here, everything I just paired up, I put, and what the parity fix actually does is it switches things, it switches everything to the other side on its layer. So I'm going to bring these two, I'm going to pair with those two and those center pieces. So the algorithm, I'm going to call this the swap parity fix in the description. It's actually the only real parity fix because you don't get Red Bull. Well, you don't need Red Bull on this. So it's going to be U2, R2, F2, and then U2 with only the most inner part. U2, F2, R2, U2. And now you can see I've paired all those greens and I've made all of that. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bunch of pairs like you see here. I'm not necessarily going to care about how it goes, but like, see I have two reds here. So I'm going to put one red there, and then I'm going to put another red that I see. I'm going to take that red and bring it there. So we have two reds here, two reds on the other side. Then we have this green-white, so I have a green-white on that side. Then here we have white-red, so over here we have to put a white-red, and I found it right over there. So I'm going to bring it over. And now once we've made all these pairs, we swap them. We have those paired, and those paired. So what I can do is I know that these reds go with those reds, and these white greens, I'm going to find the white green center part, which is right here, and I'm going to attach it, and what's going to happen is these reds are going to move over to those reds, and these are going to move over and pair. So I do the U2, R2, F2, U2 on just the center part, then another F2, another R2, and then a U2. So it's a long setup move, one move, and then you undo the whole setup move. So then we have these reds that we can pair with those reds, and then we have to find some outer parts that we can pair. So let's see, I see that we have these pieces right here, these yellow reds, so we're going to look for the yellow red inner part, and then we're going to do the algorithm. We have the U2, R2, F2, another U2, F2, R2, I'm just undoing all those setup moves, U2. So we're slowly simplifying this puzzle. I can tell that these blues have to go with the blue ones, so I can put it with those blue ones right there. But we actually don't have more outer ones. We do. We have more outer ones to pair. So that white red and the white red. So we're going to do another U2, R2, F2. Then we do the move, which is the U2. Now we undo that whole setup move. So it's F2, R2, U2. Alright. At this point, the only thing that isn't paired is the orange and the blues. So if you don't know how to do that, there's a little trick. For the last two, what you're going to do is, so this orange and that orange, but the other oranges are paired. So I'm going to put a blue here. This blue is going to pair with the other blue. Okay? And then you're going to put a common color that you finish. So here's a red. And so now the other one has to have a red too. Yeah. So, show you. So look, this is the blue. The blue is going to go with the blue, and the reds are going to go together. So it's not actually unpairing anything. And here I'm going to put this this yellow green. Goes with that yellow green, and this white blue. We're going to have to find another white blue somewhere. Where is it? Oh, well, we can't actually use it, so it doesn't matter. We're just going to do that slice. Okay, and now we have those oranges paired and those blues to switch right over there. Alright, I'm sorry about that. Phone rang, so I ended the video, but like I said, we're gonna switch those. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to find the things that we've set up to pair. So we've have these ones, and so we're gonna look for the yellow blues, which are here. So then we're gonna pair them with we do the setup move, then we do the U slice, and then we undo our 3-move setup move, giving a total of a 7-move algorithm. So now we just we finished all the centers, but we still have some edges left over to pair. We have 1, 2, 3 edges that aren't done, but this one's actually ready to pair up. So we're gonna look for this, and since we've already finished pairing up the centers, what we do is we just find the center of a solid color, so it won't matter if you swap them. And then you do the move, U2, R2, F2, then you do your U2, F2, R2, U2. And it looks like I only have a couple things left to pair. So what I like to do is I put the same color. I put the same colors. I put the red up here, and then I'm going to put this red here, and then I have an orange here, so I'm going to put the orange over there. So you can tell that if you just look at these, the centerpieces don't get affected because I set them up opposite. So what I'm going to do, since I have 3 things left, do I have 3 things? I have a couple more. So I have this white blue right there, and I have that white blue, so I'm going to bring it up. Sorry about that. So the white blues are going to match up, and then this one is goes with that color, so we can't do it, but we could do that one, which the piece for it, I can't, the piece for it is there, so for we're actually gonna have to do a 3 cycle. So that's a cool thing to do. I really enjoy those. What you do is you're gonna bring it over, and you broke most of them, but you have one that's good. So then you're gonna replace the good one with the bad one, like that. Replace the good one with the bad one, and then if you slice back, they should all be good. So that's how you do a 3 cycle. And now we have this edge to swap. So we're just going to bring all the reds together, and then we're going to swap them with the algorithm. U2, R2, F2. Then we do another U2, F2, R2, U2. And we've greatly simplified the puzzle. It's almost reduced to a 3x3x4 besides these center pieces. So the way we're going to deal with this is not very efficient, but it's very simple. Basically, we're just going to commutate the pieces. So I'm going to set up as many long commutations as I can. So I'm going to commutate that whole group of 3. Bring those over. Then I'll slice over there. And then I'll slice this back. And then I'll bring this over and I'll slice this back. Okay? And we're just working for these 4x4 squares on both sides. So we can tell that we have another long chain over here that we can commutate with that. So we're going to bring those over. And the way you commutate is you bring it over, and then you move it to the side, and you bring over the ones that you're going to unmove over the ones you commutate, then move back. And this you should just know how to do if you have experience with big cubes, which you should have if you're trying to solve a puzzle like this. And if you commutate correctly, you're not going to break the edges that you've made earlier. So as you can see, I just have this little pair and that one to commutate. I'm going to commutate the individual one right now. So I have, I bring it over, I commutate it, and then I'm going to hide it on the other side. And now I'm going to bring it back here, and then I'm going to bring this one back. It's pretty simple stuff. And we just have that little one to commutate, and those two. So we're unfortunately going to have to do 1x1 commutation, which is not a big deal. So I bring it over, move it to the side, I hide it, move it back, bring it back, and move it over. There we go. Our edges are back how they were. One last piece to commutate. I hope the camera can distinguish the whites and the yellows pretty well. If not, just look up how to commutate pieces. It's very simple. It's the kind of thing most people just figure out. So I'm going to commutate that one last one. And there we go. We have these 4x4 centers made, and we've paired all of that. And the hardest part of the puzzle is now done. At this point, the puzzle is reduced to a 3x3x4 with little parts of Parity, but we're going to deal with those at the end. Hopefully you know how to solve a 3x3x4, because that is the most basic cuboid, which is in a cube. And It's hopefully you have experience with both 3x3x4 and shape-shifting cuboids as well. So I'm just gonna walk you through it, but this is less of a tutorial. So what I do is I solve these pieces. So I have the green one, the red one, the orange one, and the blue one, so the color scheme is right. Then I'm gonna solve these ones, and I'm always gonna grab 2 of the outer layers. So it's gonna r squared u, r squared u prime, r squared. It's gonna be the algorithm to insert it. I'm gonna call that the corner insertion algorithm, and hopefully you'll be able to do it. So it's gonna be another r squared u, r squared u prime, r squared, and pretty much what I'm doing is I'm taking a corner. I'm going to show you one time. So this one, it looks like it's matched up because the green's with the green and the red's with the red, and this corner goes down, but it's not, because it has to be the red with the green and the green with the red, because it's going to flip when it comes down. So this one's matched up because it's the blue is with the red and the red is with the blue. So then the algorithm will be r squared u, u, r squared u prime, r squared. Pretty straightforward. And now we have one last piece. Not that one. There it is. R squared u, r squared u prime, and then another r squared. So I have one layer solved. Now there's different strategies. Some people like to solve the bottom half and then the top half. Some people like to solve the middle and work their way out. I'll do what most people do. I'll solve the middle first. So I gotta orient these two. I'm gonna use the same algorithm I would have used to get rid of the parity on the edges. So it's just gonna flip those. It's actually a T-perm, so it's gonna solve that orange piece there.
Who the fuck calls me, man?
Alright, you just stay quiet, guys. I have a lot of editing now to do. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a T-perm, which is going to switch these 2 corners. So the algorithm for that, I'm going to just call it cuboid T-perm. So it's going to be r squared u, r squared u prime, r squared u prime, d, r squared u prime, r squared u, r squared d prime. And now I just have to switch these two. I'm going to use the same algorithm I told you earlier. I'm going to call it the adjacent center swap. R squared u, r squared u, r squared u2, r squared u2, r squared u, r squared u prime, r squared. At this point we've solved these 2 layers of the puzzle. If some of these pieces aren't solved, don't worry about it. That's just some parity. I'm going to probably get the parity on these pieces, but we're going to deal with it the same way. So don't worry about that. I'm going to now solve the bottom part. So I'm going to do exactly what I did. I'm just going to talk about it as I do and not really walk you through it. So I'm going to bring that cross piece in, and now that cross piece that's an orange one, so it goes here, and now that's the last one is a blue one, so blue one goes over here. Yeah, and now this one goes between those. I'm going with the main corner, so r squared u, r squared u prime, r squared. Now this one goes between those, goes between these two, r squared u, r squared u prime, r squared. This one goes between the orange and the blue, right there, r squared u, r squared u prime, r squared, and now we're up to the last one. Alright, I'll just do it the longer way. That way we have the E-slice solved. Okay, so now at this point, just top layer of 3x3x4 stuff. So I got another T-perm, If you have to switch them diagonally, you can do a T-perm in two directions, or you could just use Y-perm. In this case, I just have a T-perm, so it's going to be same algorithm. R2U, R2 U prime, R2 U prime D, R2 U prime, R2 U, R2 D prime. And then I just have to, in this case I do a U perm. So I'm going to do what I call the fish, and it switches these two and these two. So it's R2 U2, R2 U2, R2 U2, and then I switch that one and that one with what I call the adjacent center swap, R2U, R2U, R2U2, R2U2, R2U, R2U prime, R2. Great. Now the puzzle is solved for the most part, except for parities. So this is the way we deal with parity. First thing we're going to do is look for easy parities. To fix, for example, I can immediately tell that these ones, this is a pretty solid bar, and this one is going to go on this side. So we're going to switch these ones and these ones. So if I go like that, it's going to be a pretty good trade. You get the reds over and you're going to switch a lot of things over here. So right now we're just going to do some obvious trades. Alright. Now we can trade. We're going to have to bring those to these sides, and we're just going to do a fatter layer. That way we can switch these two. So I'm going to hold, this is going to be my F, and since I'm trading these ones, this is going to be the U. So I'm going to do the setup move. So it's going to be a U2, R2, then I do the F2, then I do the algorithm, U2, then I undo the setup move, F2, R2, and then I undo that U2. Now, this one's a really easy case to deal with, because I could just do a setup move and then a fish. I'm going to show you a good trick for dealing with this. What you could do is a wide parity and then a thin parity, or you could just commutate it to the other side. So you're going to take it and move it there, then you're going to move one of them, then you're going to move the first one back, and then you're going to move the second one back. And then we can do the same trick over here. So we have these ones to trade. So what we can do is we can just bring them to the same side, and then we hide that, bring one over, unhide, and take it back, and the puzzle is solved. Now the puzzle is solved, but I haven't showed every situation that you could get. So here's another parity situation you can have, and this can either be with corner pieces, edge pieces, or center pieces, and you can use the same algorithm, you just have to know how to use it. And what it does is it cycles 3. So if I were to cycle the corners, it would cycle this corner, and this corner. So if you use the regular algorithm, it's going to be the bottom left on the front, and it's going to be on the back, it's going to be the top left, and then it's going to be the bottom right. So these 3, it's going to cycle, but you're not going to notice if this goes there. It's going to look like it switches those 2. So you can use the same algorithm on corners, edges, and center pieces, and you just have to know that which layer it is and grab only that layer, and you'll see what I mean. I'm only going to grab this layer, so it's going to be and it's only on this layer, so if I did it on this, it would fix too many things. It would start to break things. So it's going to be a U, R squared, U prime, L squared, then another U, R squared, U prime, L squared, then we have an F squared. I remember that the parity was on this layer and it was that far in. So F squared, R squared, F squared, and now we have an L squared U, R squared U prime, L squared U, R squared U prime, and then we just have an F squared R squared F squared. So that's how you deal with that situation, and if you have the mirror image of that situation, you just do the mirror image. Okay, so this is the last type of parity you can have on this puzzle, and it's basically if you have two edge pieces that are swapped. And basically this is the easiest parity, although it might not be the fastest to deal with, but it should be the most intuitive, because what you're doing is you're just solving it like a cuboid layer by layer, and you're not worrying about the shape shifting. So I have it set up so I can just hold it like this, and I can do a cuboid insertion for that corner. And if it's not set up for like that for you, and you just have two that are swapped, you should pretty quickly find a way to bring it to that situation. That I'm not really going to go over. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it over, and then I'm going to do the regular cuboid insertion. So it's going to be an R squared U, R squared U prime, R squared. And now that that's in, and these are flipped, but we obviously don't care about this parity because first off, it can be solved with all double terms, so I don't know if you want to consider a parity or not. And second off, it's just like, it's pretty easy to deal with. So what we have to do now is we have to switch these two. We're going to use the cuboid friendly T perm, so it's going to be an R squared U, R squared U prime, R squared U prime D, and then we have another R squared U prime, R squared U, R squared D prime. Still flipped, but no worries. Alright, I'm sorry about that. My camera ran out of power again. Anyways, at this point, I'm just going to switch those two and those two. I know that between those we don't want the white, but between those we do want a red. But this is also the quickest way to get it back in the cuboid form. And I'm going to bring it to the right side because if I do the mirror of the algorithm, I'm going to throw off this. So I'm just going to bring that over there. And then the algorithm, like I did many times, the algorithm is going to be called the adjacent center swap. So it's going to be R squared U, R2 U, R2 U2, R2 U2, R2 U, R2 U prime, R2, and then you have this. And then at this point there's many ways to deal with it. You can either do a fat parity and then a thin parity. You can do a fish and then move it somewhere else. But the optimal way to deal with it is to bring it across, and then you take one of these and you bring it across, and then you undo that, and so it's really just a commutator, if you know what that is. And at that point you have solved the puzzle, and you should know how to deal with every parity. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them below. Alright, thanks for watching, and goodbye.